African Affairs Analyst Paul Ejime joins me now on the news from the UK via Skype. Thank you very much, Paul, for joining us at this point. Fresh attack in Niger Republic. Now, did you expect all of this as the country goes into an election? Of course, this is like the first democratically elected election that they have to go into. Did you expect all of this to happen?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, this was an accident waiting to happen. If you follow the political development in Niger, you will know that it is a politically restive country. It's been, facing instability from independence in 1960 now, with military coups and, even as late as last month, more than 50 people were killed in an attack. So it's been off and on. The militants, attacking government positions and personnel. That belt, that Sahelian area, including Mali, Burkina Faso, Mauritania. These are what you call the Sahel Five, which are battling insurgency, terrorism, and then insurrections of all manners, where France is trying to assist. France is helping with the so-called Bakan force. So it's something that has been predicted. But one is hoping that it will not affect the whole because what happened now will happen in the southwestern region of Talibri, which is very notorious for similar attacks. And so it's expected, but hoping that it will not affect the whole exercise of the election, the runoff election that took place on Sunday. That actually prefaces tells you the kind of task that whoever wins will have to. Yeah.
Well, how will he solve it? Because looking at it, the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Mohamed Benzoumi, has received about 39% of the votes in the first round in December, but he's running against the former President, Mohamed Osman, who won nearly 70% of that vote, as according to official results. What do you expect them to do? How do you expect them to solve this problem?
It's not going to be, it's not a cup of tea, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Remember, even Niger is almost the poorest country in the world according to UN Human Development Index. And then so there's poverty, there is unemployment, and coupled with this governance issue and then insecurity. It's not going to be easy. It's likely that Bazoum, the former foreign minister, like you said, is likely to win. He's the anointed candidate of outgoing President Issoufou. Issoufou couldn't run because he has done his 2 terms and no third term in Niger. So it's as tricky and as dangerous as can be, a very mammoth and Herculean task, if you ask me. But it just adds to the instability and the insecurity in West Africa and the Sahel.
Okay, how can neighboring nations help Niger overcome this crisis? Because like you have mentioned and everybody knows, it's one of the poorest countries in Africa, of course, in the world. How can neighboring countries, neighboring African countries or the EU help bring Niger out of this particular insecurity that they have been suffering?
Well, let me also add that the subtext to the poverty that I talked about in Niger is not it's not zero poor. It is rich in uranium, which is very, is what is a sought after resource for nuclear technology and all that. But can you believe it that France, whose companies are mining that resource, use it to provide energy for French citizens, whereas Nigerians are living in darkness. That is the kind of contradiction you find. Talk about collaboration. If there is no short of that. Even Niger is helping because it also faces Boko Haram from time to time, and then the Sahelian instability of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. There is this G5 Sahel countries that I talked about. They are all collaborating. They have France, EU, and then Africa America will rejoin because they were not doing much under the Trump presidency. But that is not the issue. They seem to be using military tactic, military strategy. That alone cannot solve the problem in the Sahel or anywhere. They need to go back to what are the root causes. The root causes is that the lack of governance. The root causes are poverty. The root causes are, the fact that people cannot eat, there is unemployment, and the fact that people can't just live, they can't exist as human beings. That needs to be addressed. Otherwise, using, just weapons or military strategy alone is not going to solve the problem.
All right, so in all of this now, where do we go from here? The presidential election is still on, and of course, how will they be able to solve the other challenges that they are going to be facing?
Well, very soon, maybe the results of the election will be announced, and then they go on. It's like a roller coaster. They will now go on and then be, dealing with these insurgencies and insurrections and terrorism with help from other countries. Fine, but there has to be the political will, not just by the Nigerians themselves and their government, but also you talked about how can others help. The countries that are in the Sahel and then ECOWAS, because AU appears to be very far from there. ECOWAS is the regional body that ought to address this type of issue. But the current leadership there is also not looking at the leadership. There is a deficiency there. And that is what is happening. Because when issues like this come, you now take proactive and very focused measures, calling out people leaders when they are not performing. It's not waiting until there is a crisis or there is a coup like you have in Mali. You have to start engage the population, know their pains, and then address their pains, and that which is essentially governance. Governance has to deliver.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us on this.
Thank you for having me.